Hi. Welcome.
Thanks. You were going to shake my hand.
Oh, yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, too.
Thanks
Welcome to
for having
Hawkfish.
me. A mirage, by definition, is something that appears to be there, but that doesn't really exist. And you have a model scenario called the red mirage. What does that mean?
The reason we talk about a red mirage is, in fact, because we believe that on election night, we are going to see Donald Trump in a stronger position than the reality actually is. We are sounding an alarm and saying that this is a very real possibility, that the data is going to show on election night an incredible victory for Donald Trump. That is likely to be what we see when every legitimate vote is tallied and we get to that final day, which will be someday after Election Day. It will, in fact, show that what happened on election night was exactly that, a mirage. It looked like Donald Trump was in the lead, and he fundamentally was not when every ballot gets counted.
You have a result on election night where it appears that Donald Trump has won, but a result after ballots are counted that show that Joe Biden has actually won.
That's right.
Let's get an obvious question out of the way first. Hawkfish is a company that's started by Michael Bloomberg, that does work for the DNC, that's doing work for pro-Biden super PACs. If I'm a Republican voter, an independent voter, a skeptical Democrat, why should I listen to you?
One of the things that we believe is that facts matter. It's not about disinformation or misinformation or using fear as a tactic. There are objective truths in this world today.
And how do you build your modeling? How are you basing your projections?
We essentially built a simulator where it's a sequence of sliders, and you just pull those sliders to start seeing what the scenarios will show you. What's it going to look like on election night? What's it going to look like the day after, and the day after that, and the day after that? In most every year, Democrats are more likely to vote by mail than Republicans, and that has only increased this cycle. We see in the data that twice as many voters intend to cast a ballot by mail than have ever before. They are disproportionately Joe Biden supporters. Because there are absolutely some ballots that were mailed in that get counted sooner because folks were proactive and got it in as soon as they possibly could, or dropped it off, or showed up to a polling station where early votes allowed. But it's going to take a while. It might be weeks. Because absentee ballots inevitably are harder and slower to count. We are going to find ourselves that when you have those prototypical cable news talking head moments of saying, well, you know, here's what we're seeing and this is what it looks like, it's going to show Donald Trump in the lead in a lot of key places on election night when in-person reporting has occurred.
What about California or New York?
California is blue, New York is blue, right? Some of the, but Virginia is a really good example of a state that should be blue that turns out red in this moment.
On election night.
On election night.
Okay.
So a state like Pennsylvania, Florida, it's in play by just a couple points. And that's what tips it in one direction or another. If you were to essentially average battleground state polling, Joe Biden appears to be ahead by about 8%. And so if you have a number of ballot challenges in a state like that, as big as it is, as large as the population is, as diverse as the population is, it can make a really big difference over those next 10 days. And so when you start accounting for that in your modeling, you see that 8% lead kind of whittle down a little bit more, a little bit more. We might have the results saying something on the evening of November 3rd that it will not say the evening of November 10th.
What difference does it make if the results seem to show something on one night, and then several days later, the results show something else? Won't the facts just bear themselves out?
I think that's the America we all wish we probably lived in. I think we've got the Trump team who's quite intelligent and sees what's coming, and so we have the president messaging through tweets, through what he said at his rallies and his speeches, this notion of any change from that result on election night, he is signaling they will say means fraud has entered the equation.
What impact could it have? How could it actually change the outcome?
You're then setting up the American presidency for even more failure, because even if you ultimately get to the end result, which is that Joe Biden would be president of the United States, now you've taken what in politics would be thought of as a bit of a mandate to govern and go in and really help clean things up. You, in fact, find yourself in this deeply polarized situation where the American electorate, a portion of the American electorate, a real portion of the American electorate, feels that injustice was done.
What can people do to ensure the most accurate results possible in this election?
If you want your ballot to count in 2020, you need to request your ballot early, as soon as you possibly can, in a state where that's the procedure. You then need to mail it back as fast as you possibly can. But if you can early vote at a polling station, take your mask, take your hand sanitizer, go and vote at the ballot box and get your sticker. Because you want your vote to be counted. That is what's going to change from the red mirage and sort of burn off the mirage and get us to where American will is clearly demonstrated in a legitimate and unquestionable way.